if you get into the position where at some point you're messing with fuel and air, or you want different cam sensors, you need to know what bank you're working on. There's bank 1 and bank 2. This should be bank 1 here, and this should be, I guess, your first piston, number 1 piston here. This is bank 2. So what I did is I went ahead and labeled it, because let's say you're on the phone with the tuner, or you have your handheld scanner right here and it's just telling you bank 1, bank 2. I mean, you don't want to have to go back and try to figure out which one is looking it up. Just have it on there, a permanent marker, and that way you won't waste time in the future trying to remember which side's which. So I do have one fuel rail here, and I do have the corresponding bolts for that. And I also have, I didn't have my paperwork on the torque settings for our fuel rails, so I did look them up, and the sequence that you tighten them. So essentially you tighten 1 and 2, hand tighten first, then hand tighten 3 and 4, the center ones, and then you come back in sequence with the same sequence, and you tighten bank 1 fuel rail bolts to 106 inch-pound and a final pass of 17 foot-pound. So this is going to be, let's see, number 6 piston. So it'll be installed this way. This bank 2. Now I'll probably have to get a stand here for the camera, because I'm definitely going to need 2 hands in this procedure. So I'll put the camera stand on this side and try not to get in the way. This should be fairly straightforward. On the removal process, I don't remember which bank starts first, but if you're going to remove your fuel rails, you do need to remove all the bolts first. And that's in order for clearance sake. So my only concern is tighten these bolts down now, then coming back and trying to reinstall the other fuel rail, and then realizing that the bolts have to be removed for clearance. And I don't remember which one it is. I can go ahead and set these in here. I mean, we do know the sequence and the torque settings. And then so one way you have to go 1 inch forward above and then down, or just for clearance sake, or 1 inch back to the back of the motor then down, and then slide them over. So there is a slight feel. Okay, so this one on bank 2. On bank 2, I had to slide it forward. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So if you'll look at where the bolts go and where the fuel rail bolts pass through. So the bolts go, in this particular case, look, here is the fuel rail bolt hole, and here it is in the actual cylinder head right here. So this needs to line up with this hole. So on bank 2, you slide your fuel rail forward about 1 inch in order to gain the proper clearance. You need to drop it back down. And it's based on these tabs and this other where the manifold port's coming off here. So you slide it forward, then start slowly dropping it down. And then it will come down. Then you have to rotate and look down below where your injectors are about to go in the injector holes. I'm trying to be very careful, but I do need to move this camera so you can see it, because you don't want to be banging up your injectors. You want to gently slide them down into there. So essentially you have to rotate the fuel rail into a good degree where your injectors will line up in the holes themselves. Okay, yeah, there is. Let me get this camera and show you. I thought surely engineering is not that rough on this. Okay, let me point out. Let me grab something to point with. It's not going to be detrimental. Okay. Light pair of aluminum scissors. So essentially what you have to do, all right, there are crevices right here. There's a crevice here that the injector comes directly up through here so it can enter in the cylinder hole there. There's no other way to do it. So you have to turn the fuel rail at a certain angle, and also at the same time bring it back up through there, or in this case it's going to be going forward. So I think I mentioned earlier that these need to be forward an inch and then come back up, and this one's going to be the opposite. These are going to be these holes, bolt holes, your fuel bolt holes are going to be right here, and they're going to start back further and work your way up this way. All right, so that's the story of the fuel rail on how it's installed. Thankfully, I was able to do it very carefully. So next, it said to snug down these two end bolts by hand, or maybe you can put a little bit of spin on them with the wrench, but not much. And then because you're trying to slowly push these down, and it said these are the main two which draw it in at the correct angle. But after I do that, after I get them set in there, I am gonna wait to put my bolts and torque them, because I don't want it to be the scenario where this fuel rail can't be installed because it has to clear those and I have to untorque them and all that. But I will make it where this sits down in there flush against this cylinder head. That way the other rails can go in there too. So I'm going to work on that right now. I may make a video about installing the fuel injector clips where the injectors install into the fuel rail itself. That is a awkward job for sure on those clips and the specific orientation that they go in. Of course, I've done it on all 8 or 6 injectors would be 6. I've done all 6 injectors in the past. These are aftermarket injectors. They're either the ATS V injectors, more than likely, but secondarily, there may be a possibility. I think they could either be the Camaro, the supercharged Camaro ZL1. It may be a possibility too. I know the fuel pump that I use is a ZL1 intake fuel pump, so it may be that as well. Either way, I got them from Tracy Lewis Performance on the injectors, so he'll know what they are in Palmetto, Florida. I have my invoice for them somewhere, but not with me at the moment. In fact, I think I took my other rail home. I'm at home. I call my work home. Literally all the time because I'm always there. I'm at work more than I'm here, so I call work home. So I think I took it back to look at the numbers. On the injectors. I was curious to see what they're putting out is whatever their pressure is on it. I forgot what pressure they were. I dropped one of those small plastic spacers that go on the bolt. That right there. Let's go on the underside. Okay. All right. Well, I may not need those. So I need to get this bolt to pass through here. It's gonna be hard with gloves on. There we go. Got it. Okay. So like I said, outer two. Hand tighten as much as possible. Looks like they're probably 12s. I don't know if there's a whole lot of 12 millimeter socket bolts on this. I'll start with a 13 so I have a 13 handy. Yeah, they're a 13. I don't know, a lot of the vehicles I've been working on in the last, the last two big jobs I did on a Toyota, maybe it was another foreign car too, but they had a lot of 12s. And on American cars, I'm so used to using 13s on the socket size. So I'm going back and forth trying to look at equally applying the same amount tension on both these with just hand tightening per se, as we call. And I can see where the space is between the fuel rail mount and then the cylinder head. So I'm trying to keep them about equal distance. Both of them are extremely close right now. And then after this, I'll leave these two bolts here, and I can take off, probably that one would be the only one I need to take off if necessary for installation of the bank one. So I'm not going to put the other two in now, but the sequence we talked about, outer two, then the center two, and then the inch pound was 106, and then the final pass was 17 foot-pound. I'm really wondering where that fuel rail went. I thought I had my fuel rails together. I said I may have took it somewhere else, but I don't even see the fuel rail bolts that match it. I guess I took the whole bundle, or I probably put them in a plastic bag together and took them up there. So other than that, I think now, based on that's what time it is, 2 o'clock. I've got to put that flex plate on. I also looked at putting these on. Again, it's been so long. I I'm pretty sure that I normally took these off before pulling the engine, and or the other thing was I pulled the engine up part way, had to spin it a little bit. I mean, just get a different angle and then take them out to pull the rest of the way out. Maybe not to hit certain things. But eyeballing it from here, seeing where these land on those engine bottom mounts. The only thing I may have to take off is possibly this shaft, the steering shaft. The lower mounts sit right here. I've already got this unscrewed partially anyway, so I may take off that shaft. The lower mount, which these were one of the ones that was stolen, I had to recoup, is this. So I don't even have the right bolts for that one, but I do have the right bolts for this one. So I'm going to take one of these and match that up, and maybe just get 4 new ones. And then I'll have these pre-mounted into the car before I put these in there with it. So I'm hoping I can just tighten those down, tighten these down, and I'll be on my way as far as just putting it straight in there. If worst case scenario, I'll have to lift it back up, remove one side, and weasel it in there that way. It's just a lot of stuff I don't remember. So I'll need a replacement bolt for this. I'll take that with me, put in my front pocket, get 4 of those. Now, I guess what I'm going to do is prepare for the lift to come in. That's my next objective. Alright, we got the camera back on the stand. Maybe go get the tractor running. Let's go see let's see what's going on out here. There's Missy the cat. She's our somewhat mean cat. Well, not somewhat, she is really mean. Alright, we got some plants here we need to remove out of the front. There's a loader. Let me see where there's our engine hoist. I need, here we go. Here's another cat. Okay, I need to grab my forklifts. That blanket I was just using for a transmission to fix, to get underneath the car. Alright, so we got our forks. Again, this is just a video vlog type scenario. We're not doing anything too much related to a single job on torque specs and all that at the moment. Just an overview of getting the ATS back up and running again on the tractor. Sometimes this left side doesn't sit right on there. I think it's okay though. Gotta lift the lift. Some of the stuff out of the way. All right. Hammers, knives, and or very sharp things. Wood chisel, sawzall. Let's cut through a rubber insulator earlier. Set that off to the side. Alright, I'm definitely going to need 2 hands for this one, so I'm going to put the camera down here. Alright. Got to find the right lever, which sometimes I use as a lever for bolt. Getting hard to remove bolts. Of course, you always use an extension as an additional lever, and I think sometimes I borrow the lever or the lever for this in the extension. I'm going to check over here. Well, not sure where it's at, so just need to release that